Okay, Brian Hummel here, looking at 1 weekend's worth of work. It's recovered for about 2 years. The landowner wanted to see these nice little grove of live oaks, and he wanted me to cut all these trees down, or most of the trees, but I basically refused. I did cut a very few of them down, but all the tall, straight ones I left, and I used these as earth anchors, and I used all the branches to go down on the uphill side. Water came flowing through here tremendously fast. You can see the little rivulets of water coming down. It picked all the oak leaves up, and it caught it over and over and over again in little microdetritus berms. And some of it aren't even at the brush. Some of it's before the brush. But the brush, it's certainly not going to wash through. It acts like a big filter on the landscape. You want to put it in a really long stretch if you can, and you want to have it as close to contour as you can. This is not on contour because I'm actually going to zigzag the water back through this little grove. Here was a nice log that I cut out, and I laid it down between two trees. Notice how I put it on the uphill side of the trees. So that way, no matter how much water is pushing against it, it can't escape. I mean, I could pull on it really hard, it won't escape. Microdetritus piles up, but eventually you can see that it overflows down there. So eventually what I'm going to do is come in and put another one between those two trees. And it seems really small, it seems really simple, but that holds back a lot of water. And eventually, that's going to start building up a microdetritus berm further up the hill, and it will start catching this lovely sediment. So here's a microdetritus berm from that brush that got caught. You can also see I caught a golf ball. But this is going to turn into really luscious soil. So existing soil, that's what happens. That's what happens with, 75 years of neglect. And this is what happens with 2 years of strategic planning and regenerating landscape techniques. So there's things that you could do to make this landscape fabulously healthier and recharge the aquifers in the process and reduce flooding and increase the aquifers so you get base flows to the river so I can stop the flood way up here in the uplands and then re-release the water back to the river for weeks and maybe months and possibly years and decades after the floods have gone. It all depends on how porous your soil is and what kind of highway it is for the water to get from right here where I'm standing down to a creek. If it's a big sinkhole, it might be in the creek in 30 minutes. If it's a very, very windy back road, it might take 30 years. But the water's eventually going to go downhill, find a groundwater table, raise the groundwater table to the point where it reestablishes all the springs that we used to have in Texas. And now if you read some of the books, the springs that used to be flowing all the time are now dry. Because we're either sucking too much water out of the ground or not letting enough water get back into the ground. And this is the solution to all of those things. Thanks for watching, guys.